Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about life, relationships, and being human. I'm Sean Slevin, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question for me, you can submit that anonymously at asksean.org. So I was thinking today about this conversation I had recently and some things that were possible in that conversation because of a lot of work that I've done, a lot of grieving in particular, a lot of facing places of pain, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of forgiving, which is, in some ways kind of synonymous with grieving and facing pain. Maybe not exactly synonymous, but certainly overlapping. And I was just, I was struck by, some things that, I guess I was struck by what was different within myself. Like there were some places I was able to go in this conversation with this individual, whom I, as you can infer, I have a history with. I have places of hurt, a lot of hurt and pain. I've had a lot of anger in the past. And I was able to go some really, meaningful to me places. I think it was meaningful to them too. But the emphasis here, I guess, in terms of my reflections is like, because I don't know what will come of the conversation. But it felt good to me to take the risk of saying some things. Like I was able to say some things very clearly and very directly, very honestly. But it wasn't coming from a place where it was charged. So I wasn't trying to lash out. I wasn't trying to get back at them. I wasn't trying to make something happen that can't happen, right? Like there are ways in which parts of me would want for this person or other people who I have felt hurt by to be able, like I'd want them to like really feel certain things, like really feel some of the, the depths and levels of my pain and suffering and whatnot. Just there's a lot of that I just don't think is possible in some of these relationships. And especially not the fullness of what parts of me would long for. Like it's just not possible. That's not where some of these folks are at. And that's a really hard thing, right? Like that's been a lot of pain about that. I've had a lot of anger, a lot of it's not fair, right? Like feels unjust, all these kinds of things. But it felt so good to be able to, say some things I needed to say. Kind of alluding to one of my other recent videos where I talk about half-asking, how we half-ask. We don't fully ask for things. We're not direct. We don't really risk. And so we half-ask or half-ass to, the play on words I'm doing there. I felt like I felt like I was direct, and I said some things I needed to say, and they were able to be received. Like I felt heard and met in I think to the degree that was possible, and that just felt really nice. And so the point here isn't like yay me, although I've certainly been reflecting and being encouraged, right, at my growth and healing, and that's worth celebrating, right? But that's not the point of my making this video, which is rather I wanted to do this video because I talk about this so many, like it's the drum that I beat, right, in the videos that I record. But the work of grief has made some things possible that wouldn't have been possible once upon a time. Even there was a topic that I brought up that I wasn't ready to talk about like 6 months ago. Like I was kind of angry about it. Something had come up in an interaction in the past year, and that hit some old wounds, and I was pissed, and I was having therapy sessions where I was yelling and cursing and, just like having a big old time. And it's like I needed to metabolize through that intensity. The point here isn't about protecting like the person who I felt hurt by. The point is actually about taking care of myself, because it doesn't serve me well to go into an interaction, with this person or other people who've hurt me, where the wounded child in me is like hasn't been adequately cared for, and so the wounded child is leading the interaction. Like, that's just setting myself up to be hurt again. Like, that's not a good plan. And I've done that in my life enough times. It's like, it sucks. Like, it just feels reconfirming, and that, it just leads to bitterness and resignation. And so I did, I feel like I did some really good work on working with that child part of me, and doing, having some really hard grieving and facing some hard realities. But that made possible then to say some things that I did want to say and that were good to say, and I could say in a good way, and I feel good about it, and I feel good about how the interaction went. And so even if nothing else comes of it, I feel like I did what I needed to do. And so, like, there's a degree of completion to that, a degree of like, yeah, I showed up how I needed to show up, in a way that feels good to me, taking care of me. I didn't, like, leave my little boy part hanging, like, in terms of, like, not parenting him well and, like, letting him just, lead the charge and get re-traumatized or whatever. Like, yes, I don't know. I wanted to share about this because it was just an interesting example of how, this hard work of grief, of facing what has been and what is, and realities of the limitations of what can and can't be, how that really can make some wonderful things possible. Not necessarily things that we wish would be possible, but it can make possible whatever is possible, I guess. Yeah, for lack of a better way of putting that. But so I guess that would be my invitation to you, is to be wondering about, what are the conversations that you might be able to have that might become possible if you did more grieving, if you faced more of your pain, if you cared for the hurting parts of you. What might that open up? So, well, until next time, peace be with you.